The next element of a story I want to cover is conflict. Now, I just kind of mentioned conflict when I was talking about plot, but when we talk about conflict, here's our definition. Conflict produces tension that makes the story begin. So tension is things that are happening in the story that are working against one another. Tension is created by opposition between the character or characters and internal or external forces or conditions. By balancing the opposing forces of the conflict, you keep readers glued to the pages, wondering how the story will end. So a lot of you, as we were reading, were again making questions and predictions about what the story was gonna do and where it was headed, what was gonna happen. All this, I think, came out of some of the conflicts that you may have seen in the story. Well, I think a lot of the conflicts were resolved in the story. I think there's maybe some other conflicts that perhaps weren't totally resolved as we got to the resolution of the story. So a little bit about conflicts. We break it up again into external conflicts and then internal conflicts, and I'll get to that in a second. Oops. I'll go back. So external conflicts, there's 4 types of external conflicts. One is character versus character. And this is where a character has a problem with another character. So it's one person versus another. It doesn't have to be a person. That's why I say character versus character, because we might have stories with animals or other sorts of characters that aren't humans. So character versus character is a problem with another character. I bet you can think of one for Touching Spirit Bear. Number 2 says character versus society. Another type of external conflict, something that's outside of the character, is where we have one character or one person versus a large group of people or a large group of characters. So this might happen where there's a problem with the laws or the beliefs of a group. We have one character who is against many other characters. The third external conflict is character versus nature or character versus technology. So I kind of lump these two together. Even though nature and technology are very different, same kind of concept here applies. Character versus nature is where there's a problem with the force of nature. Maybe it's a blizzard, maybe it's high winds, maybe it's a flood, maybe it's something that is beyond the character's control that has to do with nature. Or maybe it's technology. Maybe there's a robot uprising or a computer virus or something like that. These are another type of external conflict, character versus nature or technology. The last one is kind of tricky. It's character versus fate. And this is where there's a problem that seems to be uncontrollable, something that is a character is dealing with that is really out of their control. So it could be like death or illness or some sort of punishment that they can't get out of. That's character versus fate. The last thing I want to talk about is the last type of conflict, but it's not external, it's internal. We call that internal because it happens within the character, him or herself. So character versus self is our only internal conflict, and this is where there's a problem where a character is deciding what to do or what to think. They're having a problem with their conscience. You might have heard that word before, conscience. I always think about this in cartoons. You see the angel on the shoulder and a devil on another shoulder, and so the character is trying to make a decision as like what is the right decision to make. That's what we call an internal conflict, a character versus self conflict. So there's a few questions for you about each of those on the Google form. Go ahead and get started on that.